Indian music is said to be 3,000 years old and has been traced back to the mantra period of about 1500 BCE. Not only did it exist in those far off times, but it had attained a high degree of perfection. The Vedic rishis themselves practiced this science. The science, in fact, formed part of the teachings of the Vedas and was a means used by the worshippers for expressing their devotion. The present northern and southern schools are both based on the principles stated in the ancient Sanskrit treatise. As to the origin of Indian music, there are two principal traditions. The first relates that it was created by Brahma, brought into vogue by Shiva and the great sage Narada. The second speaks about a strange bird called Musikar, or Deepaklata, who lived in the Caucasian mountains. Its beak had 7 orifices, through which it could blow 7 different notes. Combining these, ragas were produced congenially to the season of the year and to the hour of the day. The bird grew up to be 1,000 years old, and when death drew near, it fell into a state of ecstasy. After piling up a heap of brushwood and dry leaves, the Musikar began dancing frantically around the pile, whistling through its beak and the tune of the raga Deepak. Fire was ignited spontaneously as a result, and the wood began to burn, and the bird finally plunged into the flames and perished. After some time, an egg was created out of the warm ashes, which in due course became a diplaka. Thus, from time immemorial, one bird was born, lived its strange life, and in the end was turned to ashes. The bird is now supposed to be extinct. When the ragas are sung in the proper season and at the correct time of day, with full knowledge of the science, they create an atmosphere of perfect harmony, conducive to great inner peace and satisfaction. Furthermore, they are supposed to possess supernatural powers, capable of curing diseases and charming the elements of nature. Thus, the raga Deepak, if played in May or June at dusk, with the required skill and wisdom, has the magical capacity of creating fire, as is shown by the story of Musikar. It is related that Tan Sen, the court musician of the mighty Emperor Akbar, sang it in the royal presence. As he poured out his soul through the mystic tune, thrilling all present by his marvelous performance, fire broke out and the whole place was in flames. Ever since, no one has dared to play it. Thus, one of the 6 great ragas was lost to the world. This is, briefly told, the theory of Indian music. During those days of intense artistic enjoyment, we had the impression of living at a time when only demigods walked on earth. As in ancient Greece, we were surrounded by bards and poets, musicians and artists, all expressing in song and word the divine harmony. The whole setting, moreover, was in perfect accord, and no vulgarity or ugliness marred the scene. Beauty, dignity, and simplicity were revealed in every gesture, in the graceful pleats of the men's attire, in the exquisite saris of the ladies, and in the rich colors of the scarves and draperies. Desirous of taking a photograph of one of the artists, we asked one of the students to act as an interpreter and approached a celebrated South Indian flutist. He granted our request and invited us to come to his home in the afternoon. The sun was still painfully hot when we set out for Chendaburam. A smart bandy pulled by 2 beautiful white bullocks picked us up, and after much difficulty we at last found the right house. The whole family was expecting us, and it appeared that our visit was quite an important event. Fruit, milk, and sweetmeats were placed before us, while the women and children eagerly gathered round to look on. After a few moments' rest, we explained by signs that we were quite prepared to take the pictures and were led on to a terrace on the top of the house, looking out upon the town and the neighboring palm trees. After a very long time, the musician appeared in full regalia, holding his flute and dressed with us in much care as if he were just going to play at a concert. His tall, dignified figure and beautiful clothes would have rejoiced the heart of a painter. Just as we were about to leave, he beckoned to me and, supreme mark of confidence, showed me into his private meditation room, containing a tiny shrine, freshly picked flowers, and the figure of a deity whose identity I was not able to distinguish. Tanjore is a very pleasant town and gives the newcomer an impression of airness and harmony all its own. We lived in a Hindu chatram, a kind of hotel, and our large room gave on to a wide balcony running round the building and leading to a terrace. Below there were gardens with sweet-smelling shrubs and the sound of running water. The same evening we walked around a part of the town. Near the temple was a square with some magnificent trees and a big tank. Just as we reached it, women came up the steps carrying vessels filled with water and shining like gold in the sunlight. The next day, a meeting was arranged for us to meet the teachers of various schools so that we might hear about some of the many difficult problems requiring to be solved if education in India is to fulfill its purpose. The first thing which strikes one is that all the teaching is given in English, and that vernaculars, except in rare cases, are not used as the medium of instruction. The great poet and educationalist Tagore says with much truth that learning loses its vitamins when forced through a foreign language. The whole system of education is based on that prevalent in England and is obviously not adapted to the needs of India. Western education itself is far from ideal, but its deficiencies are increased 100-fold when the mother tongue is thus deliberately put aside. There is a wide gulf between the educated and the masses, who are plunged in illiteracy, though much is being done to bring about the necessary changes. As in Europe, students are forced through a course of studies entailing heavy strain on the memory, but leaving little scope for individual research and originality of thought. After years of hard work and strenuous effort, often at the expense of health, the last examinations are passed, leaving the student quite unprepared for life, with only a vast disappearing load of unassimilated knowledge, quite inadequate to help him along in his future career. He is often unable to find a job, and the absence of any special technical training leaves him more or less helpless. An education could be described as truly national is one of the most vital requirements for the ushering in of a new era of general prosperity and culture. English would serve its own purpose. Having brought to the East a very valuable knowledge of the science and scientific thought in various fields, it should be remembered that India has her own great scientists, not in any way inferior to ours. English would be maintained as a useful medium of expression and necessary in the affairs of everyday life. The need of a common language essentially Indian is being felt as an ever-growing necessity. The problem of vernaculars is not easy to solve owing to the hundreds of dialects prevalent in India. Apart from Sanskrit, used mostly by pundits and philosophers, and unfortunately not yet part of the usual college curriculum, Hindi is perhaps the most widely spoken, and efforts are being made to encourage its propagation, in the hope that one day it may become the common language and a powerful factor of national unity, strengthening the ties that unite all the children of the motherland. Any student of the subject is aware of the many difficulties and obstacles to be faced. But as one talked with the teachers, one felt that their efforts, based on some measure of self-sacrifice and a clear vision of the ultimate goal, would sooner or later bear fruit.